Hey, welcome to this this video really on the nuclear war simulator. And this is not a game. I just want to sort of put that one out there right from the very start. This is actually quite confronting, I've got to say. It's hard to record because it is so confronting. It really is a simulation of what actually happens through nuclear conflict and the impact it actually has on real population. So it's more of almost like a university style simulation of of disaster, of a nuclear disaster, not just a nuclear disaster, but a nuclear war disaster. And so in that sense, I just wanted to give a warning before we have a look at this one that it may not be for most of you, to be honest, to even sort of continue on with this video. So yeah, certainly, as I say, it's not a game at all. This is like the universe sandbox is an interesting sort of sandbox type experience. This is a sandbox as well, but modeling real people. And I think that's the confronting thing about this. It actually is dealing with populations, whereas with the universe sandbox, where you sort of you're sending asteroids in at planet Earth and things like that, it doesn't feel real. There's no real connection, but this is actually modeling the drama that we actually have in the world today. And so I think what I'll do is I'll go through a couple of scenarios with this. Anyway, I just wanted to warn you before we get into it, it's not going to be for most of you, I would guess. So by all means, if you're looking for escapism, if you're looking for just gameplay, that sort of stuff, this is not this sort of video. This really is it's a simulation, and look at I do cover sort of simulation type games, but this, as I say, is a difficult one to make simply because it abstracts into real people. So let's go across and start to actually just load in a couple of scenarios so you can get a bit of a feel for what the game actually does do. But anyway, I wanted that warning right up front before we actually get into it. So I'll just go into, you can create your own scenarios at any point, by the way. Maybe I'll show you some scenarios. Let's just load a couple of scenarios actually in, and then we can sort of go from there. So you've got a heap of different scenarios that have been put into into the simulator itself. This is not a game in any sort of sense. You don't win. Everyone loses in this particular scenario. It really just models what happens in a nuclear conflict. There's a few little things like the delivery systems demo number 1, which is then focused in around the Korean Peninsula and Japan. So the North Korean forces consist of ballistic missiles on sort of like the launchers, while the American forces are composed of ICBMs on submarines. And so it just goes through and just shows you a very limited scenario. I'll play a few of these just so you can sort of see what they're like, and you can create your own fairly readily. In fact, what I'll do is I'll load the sandbox in, and then I will just pause it straight away, and I can then sort of just show you what's going on. So it just gives you information. So North Korean mobile ICBM disperse. The United States is launching an attack. Also didn't get to see that one. I didn't see the information. Anyway, what this one does is I can sort of zoom right in on the actual areas. You can see there the colours in through here are population density. So Seoul, of course, nearly 10 million people. I thought it was more like 20 million or 25 million. I thought, I'm pretty sure Seoul is the same population as Australia, the whole of Australia. You've got Pyongyang back in through here as well. And so they've got different sorts of things. That's where the leaders actually are. So when you sort of see like a little symbol like this, that means that there's a leader at that location. A leader where's the leader in South Korea? Not seeing it there. Anyway, it's you can place the different bits and pieces in. These are the mobile launchers that they actually have back into around these sorts of areas. So they've got the mobile launchers back in through here. I think these are some sort of base. I can't remember exactly what these actually are. I don't know if we can see that. No, I can't see that there. Anyway, that's the mobile launch sites in North Korea. So this is again just been sort of placed in for the sake of the exercise. We've got aircraft that may be firing off intercontinental ballistic missiles or cruise missiles, one of the two. So they're probably sort of going across. They can also drop bombs as well. So the game does sort of, or the simulation does model that. I've got to stop calling it a game. This is not a game. Anyway, let's just have a bit of a look to see what actually does go on here. So if we just run it forward, I'll just run it forward at say 10 times. Actually, I'll do it at 100 times speed. which is what the game sort of tends to do. These are now dispersing. Whoa, let's just pause that for a second. And so the first of these strikes have now come through from submarines back over through here. So we can see that submarines have now launched their missiles at North Korea. So there's more and more sort of now coming back in. Let's just run at this is at real time. This is at 10 times speed. So it's blowing up the control bases in through there. These launch sites have sort of dispersed a little bit. We've got the aircraft now coming back in as well. Now it looks like they're just going to be trying to bomb this particular target. It happened a bit too quickly, didn't it? Yes, this literally is just going to be dropping bombs. And they missed in that instance. Okay, so now we'll watch what actually. Oh no, there they go. Yeah, they have actually dropped them in through there, and there has been. I think that was like a nuclear strike, and there's a whole lot of other ones coming. Let's just go back up to 100 speed again. So they're flying in to take on this particular one. You can see there the dust clouds are now sort of coming through. There goes another group of missiles now being launched from the mobile launchers of North Korea, and they're now going to be trying to attack the Japan, I guess, and also South Korea. Just go at 10 times speed. So as I say, it is a simulation. They've now launched, and now they're sort of coming back into their targets. So these are sort of like cruise missiles. Very limited range. We're still getting impact coming back through the side, and then we've got some different things now attacking Seoul itself. And Japan as well being attacked in this instance. And so in this very, very limited scenario, we're seeing lots of different types of delivery mechanisms that's sort of in play, just to sort of show what's going on. You know, then we sort of have the attacks going in around Tokyo and Osaka in this instance. So that's that's sort of where they are now. Some of these are still actually are coming back, but let's just now calculate what goes on. If I just sort of pause that there, for example, and just run the calculation, so we can calculate the casualties from recent explosions. Takes a little bit of time to do it. And so we can sort of see through there that Japan has lost like nearly 10 million people, South Korea 8 million, North Korea 800,000. China also suffered some casualties as well. And so we've got like a whole range of different things. We can then sort of have a look and see what's going on in around the different areas. So once we've just sort of run that calculation, we can see the impact zones back in through there. So the physical effects are just sort of showing the actual effects of the damage where they sort of then dropped, and the different style of effect as well. Like this is sort of a different style of effect in through this other side, and similarly back in through this area. We get also the prevailing winds at the time when the explosions actually occurred. Now where's Osaka? Osaka has also got some in there as well. And we can see where the fallout is actually sort of extending back across. So through Seoul, it's sort of extending back up through into the mountains, and so the fallout doses as well. So we can sort of see where the fallout doses are going to be extending. This is why we've got damage happening in China as well. And so the fallouts. This is essentially this one's. I don't know why that one is not showing up through there, but this is based on prevailing wind patterns, etc. And then the actual fires can also then be sort of shown in through here as well, where the nuclear blast is then creating all sorts of different fires. So that's that's essentially the way that it sort of then models its data, and it really is about the impact of nuclear war. Let's go and load in another one. So we'll just go back in and load the scenario. I'll do the second one, the delivery systems demo. This is one where it sort of shows, I guess, the different types of delivery systems. Actually, I probably don't need to do that one. Let's go with something where, like I guess to sort of show, like, you know, like this is an AI scenario of Europe. So this scenario is realistically depicting today's nuclear forces of European nations and the United States. Conventional military bases of many European countries are also placed in their real locations. The conflict is not scripted. Instead, it should be used to interact with the AI and trigger the escalation in different ways. So this is like a starting point, but it does show the escalation. Let's just load this one in. Again, very, very confronting, I've got to say. I actually don't like it, you know, like in the sense that it is so confronting. It's And so when we have a look, so there's a let's just pause this. We've got a one of the Western subs has now sort of has fired a missile. This one over through this side. So we've got all sorts of different bases and things all around the world, throughout Russia. It doesn't show China in this particular scenario. This is purely what would happen in around Europe and the USA. So this has been sort of, but again, you could sort of script it whichever way you want it to go. And so all of these things will ultimately then sort of kick on. So let's just go in and play it at, say, 100 times speed. That one comes in first. Now it activates. They will start to scramble. The next lot of missiles start to then launch. We'll start to see more and more stuff actually happening. Now they're sort of hitting targets in Europe. So the aircraft are now on their way. More missiles coming in. Taking out military bases. This is what these shapes are that we're sort of seeing through here. There's more missiles now being launched, more missiles coming in across Russia. And so it's just a massive escalation over time. More missiles being launched again. Now starting to hit the UK. UK's retaliating with theirs, and so on and so forth. So it's like this is just again a simulation. It's just a simulation that's been set up. So there's no winning in this. It literally is what could happen. I guess if certain scenarios actually do take hold, and so you can build your own scenarios with the sandbox. So the United States launched a limited nuclear attack, retaliating for an ally. It's now just getting bigger and bigger. More and more sort of launches actually happening. And we end up with basically, mutually assured destruction, essentially. With more and more nuclear warheads now falling in the various territories. Now these are now being launched from the various submarines. More incoming. Now to try to figure out what the actual calculation is, this would take quite some time to actually then do the calculation. If we pause it right there, for example, and have a bit of a look to see if we can sort of see what's going on there. There's going to be fallout all over the place. If we just go to fallout dose, I think we have to do the calculation first. I might just pause it while we do this. It's going to take forever. Yes, this is essentially now the results of that simulation, just the different sorts of damage that would then be caused. If we go to fallout dose, we'll then sort of show where the different fallout doses are actually coming in from all these different strikes all the way across Europe and also in America as well. So that is, as I say, quite confronting to sort of see how that would then sort of then work with with just a couple of mistakes, or it doesn't take much to end up here, which is, as I say, very, very scary to sort of see this. It would have global cooling would be like 3 degrees with this sort of thing. 50 million people in Russia would have fatalities back into there. 35 million in USA, 15 in Germany. As I say, quite confronting to sort of see this. The modelling of it, because it's not. It's it is a model. It's an actual simulation, but with very sort of real aspects to it. Anyway, I thought I'll show you one other aspect in that, which even becomes even more confronting, and that's when you actually start to put what would happen to real people in a real situation if they happen to be in a particular zone in one of these sorts of areas of the actual countries themselves. If we go to fires, that will then sort of show where different fires are sort of then going through with all of the different attacks as they sort of come into the different regions. But as I say, it's not a pleasant thing to be used or looking at, really, to be honest. So let's go and load one more in, and I'll then just call this to a close at this point in time. We'll just go across into that's a scenario editor. I won't go through all of these different things. As I say, it's much more about how scary this sort of stuff is more than anything else. If we go to, for example, individuals, people in like a large city, it will then use Paris as an example and just sort of show what happens to individuals that spread out around Paris if there's like a single nuclear blast. So let's go and load this sandbox in. And it will then sort of show things over time as well. And so, bang, in comes the blast. So the blast is actually hitting right in the middle there. Now we see that there's already, like if I go into the people viewer, I don't know if I like the idea that they're actually showing real people's faces again. This is, I don't know if I'm just a wuss about this sort of stuff, but I don't know, I just don't, I think if I click on find, is that going to, that's only going to sort of show me there. Yeah, if I start right-clicking on them, we can now start to sort of bring them up and sort of see who's who. Now, I've actually given that one instructions to now move, but we can go from person to person and just sort of see what they actually have. So we can see at this location, she's now got light injuries from flying glass and debris. These people in through here, for example, should be sort of getting suffering from radiation and burns. So moderate injuries from flying glass, third-degree burns, all layers of exposed skin are destroyed. So yeah, quite, as I say, quite nasty. It really does go through, I guess, the horrors of this sort of thing as well. Very high dose in through this side, radiation sickness indicator. So, and as the simulation then runs forward, like if you just do it at 10 times speed, this will then start to change. We'll start to see some of the others that actually are in stable health at this point in time with the prevailing patterns. If I just run that, say, forward at 100 speed, see we're now sort of getting like a lot of deaths. Just go back to 10 times speed again. But we'll start to sort of see that she's like, okay, so she's in a 3-story brick building in the centre of the building. So that's actually where she was. Some of these others are now sort of getting moderate injuries from flying glass and debris and third-degree burns. A lot of these now in the dark red sort of symbols are have now suffered. Oops, sorry guys. So these have now, yeah, we're getting a lot more death and destruction now as a simulation is sort of just running forward at 10 times speed. So we're seeing more and more people, sort of becoming fatalities of the actual blast. There's a few that are surviving from around the centre. And again, we can sort of run this, the casualties, we can sort of just run just to sort of see where the fallout is actually then going to be in this particular region where it sort of currently actually is. Some of these are on the periphery. Just can't quite reach them. I'll just turn that one off. Yes, these are moderate injuries from flying glass, 3rd degrees extreme radiation sickness. So he's incapacitated at this stage. He's in a 1-story frame building in the open. So she's actually gone. She's killed in the fires. It's very confronting, as I say. It's not a. I'll have to, as I say, put a big warning on this one because it is not pleasant, and I find this probably the most chilling and the most real with what's actually happening through there. Sorry, I am covering the photos there with my own head, but it's it's quite. Let's just stop that one there, I think. Just go back out, and so you can create your own news scenario if you're wanting to as well. Like you can sort of go to anywhere in the world and literally sort of, it doesn't have to be just in these zones, like you can sort of literally move to anywhere you like. I'm trying to think of somewhere that's relatively, doesn't have much population density, so you can sort of do different things, but you can sort of just check to see what would actually happen if a nuclear war did occur in any region of the world, really, just based on this population density map. So Australia's hardly got any population density, but it really does hit home, just the dangers and and just how, like all the rhetoric that we sort of hear from all the politicians, about what they would do and how they, like the interaction between, some of these just crazy people in the world, with their threats, it's not funny. Like it's not even it's really, really dangerous and really so simulations like this do play a role to try to I guess sober the mood of the planet to sort of make them realise, look, you can't be the fact that there's talk of limited nuclear war in Ukraine. Like, what does that lead to? Like it's just crazy stuff. Anyway, I thought I'd actually finish this one off here. So that's the nuclear war simulator. It is a simulator, not a game. Purely a simulator. Literally, you can just build as I say, your own scenarios. You can sort of like just do single explosions, target different countries, get the AI to sort of structure up its own little plan, so you can sort of see between, like if you do want to see what a limited nuclear sort of war would be, like for example between say India and Pakistan, which is something that has been a bit of a scare, or even things like China and India. It does sort of model all that sort of stuff, and it's as I say, quite confronting. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.